here. Okay, again, good afternoon or good morning, good evening, wherever you are. So hopefully everyone has had a great time in the past month. We are looking forward to the new months in the summer very soon. Today I'm going to talk about NOAA and the past, present, future. This is collaborative work with my colleagues. You can see the names given here, and former students, current students, and also future students. Some of them are here in today attendance. Especially, I'd like to thank Professor David Midman, my colleague, good friend from UT Austin. Takes time to listen to attend this talk. Thank you, David. Just like any model development, it's really community effort to develop NOAA MP because this involves lots of people's tremendous time and effort in the past decade or so. You can see here some of the names and the photos are shown here. Really, it takes a village to raise a child, and also takes a whole community effort to develop and evaluate a model. We all know that land is key to Earth system science. You can see here on Earth, out of 5 interacting spheres, atmosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and cryosphere. Land is at the center stage because our humans, all us, live on land. And all these extreme events, fire, flooding, droughts occur on land. So land is critical to our well-being. And generalized land surface processes include exchanges with the atmosphere and exchanges with the ocean, and land has a memory. This is one of overlooked processes when we talk about land. The snowpack, vegetation, soil moisture, groundwater, etc. They exert different controls on different time space scales. And because of this, we are able to predict weather and short-term climate by keeping the land memory in mind. Also, human activities take place on land. The land use, energy use, water use, you name it. There's so many patterns, so many activities going on. Humans are increasingly dominating the Earth's surface. The models that are used to represent those processes are called land surface models. In the past several decades, there are many views or reviews or overviews about land surface evolution. This is the latest one published early this year by Stephens in Dams Bulletin of EMS, summarizing the view from the GREX community, Global Energy Water Sector community. In the GREX view, over the past 5 decades, you can see land has evolved from the bucket model, very simple one-layer bucket hydrological model, to very sophisticated model as we see from today. And the top figure showing like B, C, and D are indicating the models are going through more and more, including more and more heterogeneities, different patches, different surface types, how they interact, how they are modified by humans. And the E, F, and G indicating the processes such as photosynthesis, evapotranspiration, and the infiltration runoff. Basically water bodies, water exchanges, and carbon and other exchanges. Another view is the ecological view of land model evolution, published by Fisher and Coven in James AGU journal 3 years ago. You can see over the past 4 or 5 decades, vegetation and dynamic vegetation and different carbon cycle and crops, etc., gradually incorporated in the land modeling framework, evolving from very simple earlier generation model to more sophisticated latest representations of the surface processes. Another view, this is actually from Dr. Maidment and his colleague Ed Clark. This was, I don't think it was published in BAMS, but I forgot which journal this was published. But this was presented in 2015. You can see from a hydrological point of view, the skill of model predictions has evolved tremendously over the past 4 decades as well. In early stages, the statistical engineering-based models outperform the land surface models, but in the past 10 years or so, more and more sophisticated processes are being incorporated in the weather and climate models. So therefore, we expect to see the predictive skill for flooding and droughts, extreme events will exceed those from the simple engineering-based statistical models. This is my own view of land model evolution. Again, borrowing the figure from the IPCC, you can see, sorry about my dog. Okay, he sees something outside the house. You can see earlier in 1970s or late 1960s, the bucket model, and in 1980s, the model developed by a few pioneers, the models such as BATS, Biosphere Atmosphere Transfer Scheme, SIB, Simple Biosphere Model, and NOAA, original NOAA, in early and mid 1980s. And in the early 1990s, shortly after I finished my PhD, I led the project for intercomparison of land surface schemes, PUPS. This was published in BAMS along with my PhD advisor, Ann Henderson Sellers, and Bob Dickinson. So this laid out framework for intercomparing the different land models, understand their strengths and their weaknesses. This comparison, this international intercomparison, or so-called MIPS effort, took about 20 years. So over this period of time, we have learned a lot from each other. As a result of that, the community land model is developed in late 1990s or early 2000s. So here is the, for those of you who may not see them, so here the picture of them. Manabe got the Nobel Prize in Physics a few years ago, I think 2 years ago, which not due to his contribution in surface hydrology, mainly coming from his contribution in greenhouse modeling. But anyway, he is one of field linking the atmosphere and the soil hydrology together. He's a pioneer in that regard. And this is Bob Dickinson. This is Pierre Sellers. He's also astronaut. He passed away a few years ago. This is Ann Henderson Sellers, my PhD advisor. So now when we move on to NOAA MP, in early 2010, in early 2010, and NOAA MP was developed. So now I'm going to talk about the past and the present and future of NOAA MP. So in the next few 20 or 30 minutes, I will walk you through how this model is conceived, is developed, evaluated, and I will share with you my thoughts and experience. So let's first start with the past. So for those of you who just follow the presentation, I mentioned the community land model. Indeed, my earlier work was mainly focusing on developing and leading the effort in involving the community to develop the community land model for use in the Earth system model or climate model. I serve as a co-chair with David Lawrence from NCAR, National Center for Atmospheric Research, for 2 terms, 2008 to 2013. So during that period, we have witnessed that CLM was evolved from 3 to 3.5, mainly due to my group, the work contribution led by Dr. Guiyue Niu. You can see in those publications. Later on, CLM 3.5 was upgraded to 4 and 4.5. For those of you who want to see a picture, this is a standard illustration of CLM. After the success of developing the hydrology schemes and snow schemes, frozen soil schemes, runoff schemes for CLM, leading to the different versions of CLM, we realized that both weather models and the climate models, they share the same land surface. Therefore, the fundamental biogeophysical processes and hydrological processes should apply to both weather and climate models. So therefore, the parameterizations just talked about earlier that have played a major role in upgrading CLM from an earlier version to later version, such as surface runoff, groundwater, frozen soil, density-based snow cover, fraction, and the interactive vegetation canopy, and the vegetating canopy processes for interception of snow and snow drifting from the canopy, and the snow and the radiation transfer and turbulence changes between canopy and snow. So those biophysical processes should also apply to weather models, not just in the CLM for using climate models. I wrote this review article in 2003, which published in 2004, which described that kind of a thought process. So therefore, we had that idea that those parameterizations talked about earlier or listed below can be plugged in to original NOAA model. Say, take those from CLM, plug into NOAA model, would also lead to improvements in NOAA. Compared to CLM, NOAA has also its sophisticated classic land model, has been used in the weather communities such as WRF, weather research and forecasting, and also NOAA's weather forecasting model for since the early 1980s. Also, the big community led by Fei Chen, Ken Mitchell, McEck have been actively developing and evaluating and applying NOAA LSM. However, from PILPS, the intercomparison models, and from other efforts, we recognize NOAA LSM has some deficiencies. So therefore, by including these processes or enhancements into NOAA, we expect to see the improved performance. By doing that kind of model development, we have to keep in mind there are 2 schools of thought in land model development and evaluation. One school is focusing on model development. For this school, basically, like a meteorologist or mathematicians or the land surface modelers, their focus is on increasing realism in representing the key processes such as soil hydrology, snowpack, snow melt, and the radiation transfer and turbulent exchange. So there's no end. We need to, because the surface is so complex, we need to keep increasing the realism. Also, the focus is on understanding the feedbacks and interactions, how those processes, when you couple them into the atmosphere model, how would they affect convection, cloud formation, and precipitation, and general circulation. And when you develop a sophisticated land model, you need to also keep in mind, you have to maintain synergy between the complexity of a land model and the other host models, such as the ocean model and atmosphere model. And the modules are developed for land package, aiming for past, present, and future climate applications. And the parameterization developed from a few sets, but you want to generalize the parameterization across the globe. So this is the basic considerations the people from the model development community, they worry about, they think about. On the other hand, in the evaluation community, they are focusing on, okay, you have a model, and models are being more and more complex. Complex models have more parameters, and some parameters are not measurable. So therefore, how do you quantify the uncertainty in your model? And the uncertainty can come from not only the model structure, can also come from the atmospheric forcing, such as precipitation, temperature, the fields that drive the land model. And when you calibrate a model, what parameters you use to calibrate the model. So therefore, there's a pyramid in evaluating the land model based on the 4 dimensions: atmospheric forcing, observational data sets, model structure, and the parameters. Only when you exhaust the parameter space, some the scientists in this community would think you adequately address the model uncertainty. However, I would argue you have to also consider the atmospheric forcing uncertainty, such as precipitation, radiation uncertainty, as well as the scaling issues, pointer data versus spatial data sets. So therefore, there's a mismatch or gap between the 2 communities. One argument is, are we going to have over parameterization? So this is a question that often got asked. Past students who work with me in the past 10 or 15 years have worked diligently and in reconciling these 2 groups. So here I'm just showing a list of those publications. For the sake of time, if you want to know more of these, I'm happy to discuss after the talk or offline. Another new way of evaluating model was published in JAMS by Zong-Liang. So this is a new framework we think we call falsification-oriented signature-based evaluation. It's a mouthful. So we apply the modeling framework to the US, and we consider uncertainties in both observations and the modeling structure. Then we determine where the observations are problematic, such as in the Western US, in the Rocky Mountains, in the mountainous areas. So therefore, in those regions, we need to focus on enhancing observations. And in the Eastern US, also in the southern coastal Gulf Mexico states, in those regions, the models are not adequate. So therefore, we need to focus on improving the models. And in elsewhere, so the models partially falsified, indicating they can be adequate or fit for practical applications. I will skip this slide. So now, with all of that efforts, development in CLM and new parameterizations, and reconciling two schools of thought in model development and in the evaluation, we were thinking of how to put them all together to develop a new model called NOAA-NP. So we submitted a proposal to NOAA in 2006. The proposal was funded in 2007, and the life cycle of the proposal was 3 years. During the 3 years, in collaborating with Guoyue, Fei Qin, David Gauthier, Tim Mitchell, and others, we also have weekly and monthly telecoms involving the key developers. So at the end, we develop the NOAA-NP model. And that model was endorsed in 2010 NOAA-sponsored land modeling workshop in Austin. I will show more figures in the next slide. And the papers are published in 2011, and the code was released to NCAR, NSAP, and NASA. I will talk more about this in the future slides. So for those of you who, I think some of you in the audience may come to this workshop. I think Dr. Maidment, David, you were there. So we had a boat in the Lake Austin, and it's a 1-2-day workshop. At the end of the workshop, we treated all the participants with Texas barbecue. You can see here the usual suspects in the landscape modeling community. This is late Jim Shuttleworth, Paul Dermeyer, and Mac Egg, and Krista Peters-Vedad, and this Dr. Wang Kaicun, Professor Wang Kaicun, Xu Binzhen, Zhou Liming, Fei Qin, and this is Guan Xiaodan and Ming Jieshi, former student. This is a late EMC Environmental Modeling Center in NOAA, the director, Bill LaPanta. This is Jin Huang, Robert Dickinson, and Dennis Lettmeyer. More figures. This is Guoyue Niu, Yongjiu Dai, Yongkang She, and Fei Qin. And I also have photos from Dr. Maidment and others. This is Dave Gauthier and Mac Ballage. So here are the two papers we mentioned earlier. This is Guoyue. The first paper is led by Guoyue in Zhejiang 2011. The second paper actually led by me, but Guoyue did most work and running the model, producing results, and analyzing the results. And both papers turned out were quite popular in the community and well received in the community. You can see from the scholar citations. One thing I'm really proud of this NOAA-NP is not only the new we tested hypothesis, including plugging the new parameterizations from CLM to NOAA, improving performance. Also introduced the MP multi parameterization concept or multi-physics, multi-hypothesis concept. What that means is in any land model, you can identify different processes such as vegetation canopy, turbulent exchange, soil physics, and the snow pack, etc. And for each of those processes, you can take 1, 2, 3, or more parameterizations, and then multiply those number of parameterizations, you would get a huge number of combinations of parameterizations. So this is very, very important for understanding the process interaction, probabilistic forecasting, and quantifying uncertainties. I will show more examples later on. So because of this framework, which is also the higher coding standard, so this model is, since its inception, has been widely used in weather research forecasting model, in unified forecast system, in North American land data assimilation system, LDAS, in NASA land information system, NASA LIS, also in NOAA national water model, and many more, and used in many other countries as well. So here is just a quick display of the evaluation of the model. You can see the top one from model NOAA MP, bottom one from the satellite observations. The left panel showing the leaf area index, the red panel showing the green transparent vegetation cover. Overall, you can see the model is able to reproduce observed satellite derived patterns. And if you look at the seasonally, you can see the over different regions in the US. Similarly, you can also look at elsewhere in other countries. The red is a model, and the blue is the previous version, the NOAA, original NOAA, and the circles are observations. You can see the red fit really well with the observations. Using NOAA MP, replacing NOAA MP, using NOAA MP to replace original NOAA, reduce the 2-meter air temperature. 2-meter air temperature is very important variable in weather forecasting. Because every day you want to know weather forecasts, how warm temperature is. And that is very important to tell the heat waves and droughts, things like that. So with NOAA MP, the biases in the original NOAA linked with WRF is reduced. And also when you link that to the NSAP climate forecast system like CFS, again, the biases in regional biases, like in mountainous regions in NOAA, is reduced, as you can see in NOAA MP. So this is a quick summary demonstrating that improved realism in snowpack, groundwater, vegetation phenology improves the performance of air temperature and other leaf area and other fluxes, like sensible heat, latent heat fluxes. And this MP framework allows for multi-physics, multi-hypothesis testing and understanding of the parameterization interaction. We also found that the runoff parameterization are dominant options influencing energy, water, and carbon balances. The groundwater climate interaction is able to is demonstrated to have value in seasonal and sub-seasonal 2-meter air temperature and precipitation prediction. So for those of you who want to see more supporting papers, I'm happy to show you a list of papers summarizing, documenting the model supporting these conclusions. Okay, so in the next few minutes, I'd like to show the post-2011, the 2 papers, the development at UT Austin. I will focus on 4 areas: plant hydraulics, carbon nitrogen, WRF hydro rapid. By the way, rapid is a river routing model developed by Cedric David and supervision Professor Middleman. And when Peiron Lin working with me, Peiron is now a professor in Peking University. When Peiron worked with me, she collaborated with Dave Gorges in NCAR, linking rapid with WRF hydro. That's the foundation for the later on national water model. Also, NOAA MP is used with another NCAR package, data assimilation research testbed DART. Together is able to assimilate satellite observations into land framework to better constrain forecasting accuracy. So here I'm going to show quickly example of the plant hydraulics. in the changing climate, the rainfall patterns are changing, and the extreme events are changing, heat waves. So therefore, the plants is subject to stress. So how to handle the stress of plants to the changing climate is a very important research topic. And the past land models using so-called big leaf model, such as described here, giant leaf area covering the entire land grid of 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, which is a final resolution, to like a 100 kilometer to 100 kilometer, which is of course a GCM scale resolution. So this so-called big leaf model is unable to resolve the tree mortality and plant ecosystem response to droughts. So therefore, a new concept called a whole tree, whole plant idea or hydraulic strategy needs to be developed and utilized in the land surface modeling. So this plant hydraulics idea considers the leaf water potential and the stem water storage and how the whole plant is taking water through the roots from soil and transfer along the stem and eventually expiring to the atmosphere. So this whole process is really mechanistic, much improved than the traditional big leaf model. Because of this complexity, which requires additional 14 parameters. But if you look at this in detail, some of the parameters like rooting depths are already incorporated in the previous version of the model without considering plant hydraulics. The Lingcheng student working with me and also under joint supervision of me and my colleague, Dr. Ashley Metheny. So Lingcheng did this work using the local flux from University of Michigan biological station. So you can see here comparison of transpiration and the GPP. Delta KGE represents the scale enhancement. So the positive means the largest enhancement over the dry when the soil relatively dry. And you can see the large enhancements occur in both dry areas for both transpiration and GPP. The modeling framework is also able to distinguish two different species, like oak species, which is risk prone, and the maple species, which is risk averse. So you can see transpiration and stem water storage for the two species are captured really well by the modeling framework across this dry down period when soil moisture is subject to a dry down period. And after the initial success from the single set over the Michigan station, Lingcheng and a collaborator, Shan Sun from Yunnan University, extending this to more sites. I think there were 30 or 40 sites across the globe. And over those different sites, you can see covering the entire range of landscape and the climate. Overall, there you can see positive KGE, the positive scale in using the plant hydraulics compared to the traditional soil hydraulics, which is without considering the plant hydraulics. And Lingcheng has also tested the sensitivity for different parameters, and they found the most sensitive parameters are leaf-related parameters, especially in the humid regions. And in the dry regions, actually, the rooting depth is the most sensitive parameter. These are kind of what you expect because in dry areas, the plants have to extend the roots to a deeper area in order to capture water. And on regional scale, including plant hydraulics is able to reproduce these droughts. This is the 2011 drought, which is the most severe one-year drought in Texas history. By comparing with the Greece satellite-derived water storage change, you can see, including the species-specific properties and the plant hydraulic scheme, the modeled TWS agrees very well with the observed TWS. Again, this is a preliminary work. A more extended work is being pursued by the group members. Because this work and this research has received tremendous attention in the community, not just the land service modeling community, but also in ecological, in the tree forest community. So you can see the citation really high. So therefore, this paper has been top downloaded article, also top cited article for the papers published in 2021, 2022 from this AGU journal, JAMS. So really proud of Lingcheng's work in this area. For those of you who want to know the details between difference between big leaf and big tree, here we call big tree by representing the whole canopy water use strategy. So the traditional land models such as NOAA, CLM, SIB, or simple SIB, the soil moisture limitation to transpiration, the beta parameter, is parameterized based on soil hydraulic properties. Those are soil properties. But for in plant hydraulics, including plants, you need to consider the detailed how the plant cells and the leaf cells respond to the stress. So when the leaf water potential is low versus high, so when it's high, the stomates are open, fully open. When it's low, stomates are closed. So therefore, the beta is parameterized by the leaf water potential. Okay, so that's about plant hydraulics. Next, I'm going to just quickly summarize the work by another student, Xiqian Cai, who bring fun, introducing fun to the land surface modeling community, especially to NOAA-MP. FANS here stand for the fixation and the uptake of nitrogen. So this is a very cool name, but also may make the land surface modeling very interesting, because including more carbon and nitrogen processes. And that's for the how plants uptake and consume nitrogen. So and within the soil column, using the very well-known SWOT soil and water assessment tool developed by USDA for agricultural watershed. This is a very well-known model, has been going on for decades as well. So therefore, Xiqian is able to parameterize those two processes and for use in NOAA-MP. So therefore, NOAA-MP now is called NOAA-MP-CN, and this framework is able to open to a new door, new world, because we are able to study the water pollution and the coastal eutrophication and hypoxia, and a series of water pollution problems. And this is the ongoing work. Student of mine is linking this NOAA-MP-CN with NANI, which is the national nitrogen input from dry deposition, wet deposition, and the sewage and the agricultural use, etc. And we have two different products. One is national product, another one is Texas-specific product. Two products of nitrogen input. We use those two input to drive NoIMP-CN, we are able to resolve the detailed the water nutrients leaching in Texas, and we tested across 2 river basins, the Guadalupe, the yellow one, and San Antonio, the green one. San Antonio is an urbanized watershed. Guadalupe is an agricultural watershed, and the regional nitrate leaching is being evaluated for those 2 watersheds. Again, this work is in progress. Hopefully, students working on this will defend her PhD late this summer. Next, I'm going to talk about Perron Lin's work linking rapid river routing model. You can see here in this river routing model within the Wolf-Hydro framework. So because the coupled Wolf-Hydro rapid, this framework is able to simulate river flows across river basins, and also is able to used for a series of other applications such as flood mapping and flood inundation modeling. So this is just a snapshot of what the Wolf-Hydro rapid is capable of. Indeed, this has been used as a foundation for the later on national water model. And this national water model has been operational since 2016 to forecast river flows for more than almost 3 million rivers across the US every hour since 2016. This work was made possible because of the Perron's work in close collaboration or in supervision and the supervision of Dr. Middleman, myself. So next is I'm trying to show an example of NoIMP is linked with DOT. DOT is the data assimilation research testbed developed by ANCA. So when the 2 are coupled and they in this study, we only simulate the Greece gravity satellite derived total water storage change. We are using North America as a test bed to show how this system works. You can see here the TWS, total water storage change anomaly. Assimilation of this anomaly into NoIMP leads to improvements in the snow over the mountainous regions, especially when snow is deep. And also assimilating Greece into NoIMP improves the deep layer soil moisture. The surface top layer, like a top 10 centimeter, shows little improvement or even slight degradation. But the deep layer soil moisture shows improvements. You can see here over those times and over those the regions. And also assimilating TWS not only improves soil moisture and snow, but also improves the runoff in the arid, semi-arid regions. You can see the runoff is improved. We know NoIMP or any land models have problems in simulating runoff over the dry areas. So by assimilating TWS into the model, we are able to correct that bias. So now, what's time now? It's now almost 48 minutes past hour. I'm going to wrap up very quickly, talk about NoIMP present and future. We already talked about the history, the past, the thought process. Present stage. Earlier in the introduction given by Dr. Zhou, he mentioned that last week we had a NoIMP workshop. This is the first workshop held since the development of this model. This workshop was motivated by the latest version 5. As you can see from this technical note and this description of the model and this GitHub release of the code. So this entire code is rewritten by making the code more modular, more much easier to read, and much easier to understand and to modify. So therefore, this will be the current stage of the NoIP, which will open the door for future improvements, and including more advancements and more processes, and easy to be to learn by the new users, especially by the students and the scientists who are interested in learning this model. In the workshop last week, we were very happy to see more than 200 participants attending from 16 countries. And this showing the model, the citation has been going rapidly increasing every year. Currently, total citation since its publication is already 2,300. This is one of the most widely cited landscape models in the world. By the way, this is a new logo to be confirmed at the workshop. For those of you who want to use NoIP in the future or in the presentation in the conferences, please use this new logo. This C represents community, different colors represent different processes, from soil to vegetation and to the environment. So this is the photo taken during the workshop. Dr. Goyer was sick when the photo was taken, so therefore I think his picture was shown here in the iPhone of the Yangtze iPhone. Here quickly I'm going to show some highlights from the conference speakers. This is a first highlight from Mac Ballage. He's currently working in NOAA National Weather Service. He's showing how NoIP is being transitioned into the operational center. And Dave Gauthier gave a presentation to show how Wolf Hydro and NoIP is being applied for different applications. Excuse me. And David Marco and his collaborators like Sujie Kumar and others talk about their effort in NASA, involving NASA Land Information System. And Ronnie Abalafia Rosenwig from NCAR has done excellent work in improving snowpack. Also, excuse me. So this is a NoIP crop model, and also there's a presentation about irrigation and crop. Very sophisticated irrigation method for sprinkler irrigation, flood irrigation, etc., are being implemented into NoIP. This is very important for food-water nexus study. This application is very encouraging. This used fuels is funded by US aid, and they're trying to monitor droughts in Africa and providing the important weather and natural disaster information for people and the decision makers in Africa. So with that, I'll move on to the future of NoIP. I will have a few slides before I stop. Now, everybody has heard about digital twin. Digital twin has initially used in engineering field, but now has received more and more attention in the earth sciences. European Union has planned to revolutionize climate forecast at 1 or even smaller than 1 kilometer. So you can see this partition left and right is really difficult to distinguish which one is reality, which one is the model simulation. I do not know, you can tell immediately which one, the right or left, is reality, or right or left is model simulation. So digital twin will revolutionize the future climate hydrology and weather forecasts. The new approach has been proposed in this paper by Julius Lingo in Nature Climatic Change last year, calling for the direct simulation of deep convection and land atmosphere interaction. So therefore, how to identify the important land atmosphere interactions, and at such kilometer scale, what are the challenges ahead of us? So I summarize based on literature review. I have presented this in the past few years. There are 5 categories representing new challenges. One is exascale or even finer or greater computational architecture. Some legacy code, the program, the computer program, maybe need to be rewritten. I know, some climate models start to be written in Julia, like the Caltech climate model is going to be written in Julia. So this is taking advantage of computer architecture, and also to better address memory for predictions across longer timescales by considering the memory processes inherent in snow, soil, groundwater, terrains, vegetation. And we have to take into account, we have to be alert about the rapid transformation of landscapes, such as urbanization, deforestation, landscape changes, like agricultural irrigation, agricultural intensification, things like that. Ultimately, we have to be climate resilient, and we have to prepare for extreme events, better adapt or make the climate change. Speaking of the extreme weather disasters, in the past few years, the US is not stranger to this. Again, this extreme flooding and heat waves are not just happening in the US, also is worldwide in Asia, China, India, Europe, Australia, and South America. And these extreme events are expected we are expected to see them more and more in the future. So therefore, and I think we are entering a stage of a new normal, not just new climate normal, but also new normal in landscape modeling. The new models, the challenges we are facing is the new models must be able to predict extreme events, such as floods, droughts, heat waves, dust, and wildfires. And new models must be able to target regional features, such as complex terrain, coastal lines, or the urbanized regions, and focusing on the strong human activities. And also we have to be mindful of the ongoing national, international policies, or regional policies. Ultimately, we live on land. We really hope land models will be help us to make more informed planning. So finally, I'd like to conclude. I have spent almost 1 hour. Thank you for bearing with me. Here's a short take-home message. By working with a group of talented scientists, I really learn a lot So this multi-physics approach is just at the beginning and still has lots of room and has much more things to be done. So we know this multi-physics have lots of capabilities and so many frontiers are still not explored yet. So we really encouraging new students, new talents to join us to keep developing this model. So I will stop here for questions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Yang. Well, I think it's very comprehensive overview of NoMP from past 50 years to the nowadays, and you also give some outlook for the future possibilities in using this model to try to solve different kinds of problems. So I would like to thank you again for your contribution in this land surface model for the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let's open to the questions, and we will take questions from the chat box, or if you have, if you can, please turn on the mic, you can ask directly to Dr. Yang. Xiangyong, would you like to ask directly because your question seems to be long? If not, I will read the questions. Okay. Thanks, Professor Yan. So Xiangyong from Peking University. And the multi-parameterization MP framework allows for multi-hypothesis testing and understanding the process parameterization interactions, but increase the model complexity and uncertainty. NoMP is not a fully calibration-free model, as its parameterization scheme includes numerous parameters that are calibrated at a globe scale. Therefore, I want to ask first, how to interpret the uncertainty introduced by multiple parameterization schemes and parameters. And the second question is, in NoMP, there are parameterization schemes that better represent physical processes, such as the modified two-stream scheme. Why do we still need to retain other schemes, such as the two-stream applied to grid scale? Do you think we should update NoMP by adding new hypotheses and then removing old hypotheses? Thank you. So about parameterization.
Okay, so actually, this is a great question. Thank you, Dr. Lei, for asking this question. You are from Peking University. I'm reading your the chat as well. For your first question, have we explored the parameter uncertainty for this modeling framework? As I know, some groups, not my group, some groups have used NoMP to explore the parameter uncertainty. I think Martin Clark is one of the co-authors. For those of you who may not know Martin Clark, he is a professor in Canada. He used to be at NCAR. He is the person we borrowed the multi-hypothesis from. So his group has used NoMP to explore the parameter uncertainties. Also, Professor Tian Ye, from Nanjing University Information Science Technology, when she visited me, she started some work on this. I do not know if she's in the audience today. If she's attending, I'd like Professor Tian to speak on that regard. For the, but I agree that's an important topic. But my group has explored the parameterization uncertainty. So, you know, the model is able, NoMP is able to produce huge number of combinations. So Hui Zheng has done that, also working with Professor Chunlin Huang we had a paper published in JGR Atmospheres looking at over snow regions, how parameterization uncertainty affect modeling performance. So this is ongoing work, how to simultaneously consider both parameter uncertainty, parameterization uncertainty, as well as the forcing uncertainty, precipitation forcing, and the validation fields uncertainty, such as soil moisture, latent heat, sensible heat, simultaneously considering all of them. I don't think anyone has done that. I think in part because computational demand would be huge. But given machine learning, AI is rapidly developing, we have so many young talents. I'm sure this problem should not be a problem anymore. For the second question, when you have the relatively more advanced schemes and less advanced schemes, should we only keep advanced schemes and removing the least advanced schemes? The one 2 weeks ago, she published a paper in WRR, specifically addressing this question. For example, you take a large ensemble, you remove some poor performing members, or including some best performing members, how the overall the ensemble skill behaves. So she has a paper published in WRR. If you're interested, I encourage you to read that paper. But we found some interesting asymmetric behavior. And so if you include some like worse performing models, the results are not affected. But if you include the best performing models, results the ensemble mean results actually improved more than you included the worst performing models. So anyway, I think that's the new that's the new area which requires more exploration, because currently we are testing this offline. We like to test that in coupled mode, land atmosphere interaction mode, to see how those the different model parameterizations, how they can be utilized to improve the forecast. So, but thank you for your comments and for your questions. We like to up offline more.
Yeah, I agree. Ensemble is at least one of the solutions to deal with the uncertainty. So the next question is about like heterogeneity in the soil types. So maybe he asks if we use the same parameterization in the same the entire research study area.
So are you reading this one in Chinese, or is the different?
The Chinese one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see if you are online. Can you just
explain a little bit, because I also have confusing.
I'm trying to understand. So I'm trying to switch between Chinese and English, especially after the 1 hour talk. I'm trying to conceptualize what you really mean. Could you speak out, unmute yourself and speak out? I'd like to see. I'd like to see you. Heng, Dr. Heng.
Maybe he's not.
But we can so I think this question talking about the large-scale model evaluation, like a regional, continental, or global scale evaluation. So for the same soil texture, soil type, but different grade points, how do you initialize soil, like a soil hydraulic conductivity,
maybe
soil moisture?
Yeah, I know. I also have the similar question. So, what is the minimum spatial scale in the model? The calculation scale maybe is 1 grid, but you also can use more the parameterization at a higher spatial resolution.
Yeah, currently MP is understood as a vertical 1D, so therefore can be applied at very fine resolution, like a kilometer resolution or coastal resolution. And for each grid, the how you initialize soil moisture. So this is one of the questions we're always facing. So we have to deal with spin up. So if you initialize with for example, arbitrary soil moisture, and when you run the model after long enough time, like many years, so want to make sure the forcing, the meteorological forcing, and the soil moisture together, they must reach equilibrium, the steady state. So after this is reached, then we will be able to evaluate the sensible heat, latent heat, and the water bodies. So spin up is always has to be considered. We have to consider spin up.
So within each calculation node, each calculation's grid scale, you don't have like heterogeneity at of the parameters. Oh, sorry. Hello. Seems my network is slowing. Sorry, seems my network is slowing. So maybe let's go to next questions.
Yeah, actually, the Zong-Liang, I'm glad to see Zong-Liang here. Zong-Liang has answered the question, I think. Yeah. Thank you, Zong-Liang.
Okay, thank you.
I thought Zong-Liang is on travel because today is supposed to be a holiday.
Sorry for the inconvenience. So the question from Guowei. Hello, Professor Yang. I have a question about how to change AI in NOAA-MP, how to apply remote sensing based AI.
Yeah, we have a paper published by another student of mine. She's now a postdoc at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. I don't remember her name. I'm getting old. Wenying has used NOAA-MP and look at different leaf area setups. So, for example, you specify leaf area based on the climatological mean. And so you get from satellite observations, and you average multi-year data sets, you get an annual mean, the multi-year mean for January, like July, etc. This is one setup. Another setup, one configuration. Another configuration is you run the model in transient mode. So every year has its own yearly leaf area. So the year to year is different. And she's comparing them, and also she compares the model with different hydraulic, runoff schemes. Also, she uses the interactive canopy by, like, instead of specifying leaf area, but predicting leaf area. So she compared all of them over Texas, because Texas is subject to droughts, so we want to see how the vegetation leaf area schemes in the model is able to handle the drought situation, because to deal with the droughts always problematic. So anyway, so if you're interested, I'd like you to read the paper by Wen-Yin Wu, Mac Barlage, and myself, three of us published the paper, I think 2021. By the way, I think Guoye and has a new version of NoIP in his research group that includes the dynamic roots. So therefore, with the dynamic roots and also PFT, plant function type specific parameter adjustments, his version is able to reproduce leaf area index year by year and region by region in comparison with the observations, which is really impressive. I think the paper already published either in WRR or JGR. And in the workshop last week, one of the collaborators from his group now is working in PNL, giving a talk on that. So that's the important area. So the leaf phenology and soil moisture and the droughts are very important topics.
Okay, and also Chen-Ning has also answered this question in a very detailed way. So you can even check the codes where it is to change to the remote sensing area. Okay, let's go to next question. It's from Shuping, a student from University of Tokyo. So he is now very interested in the new challenges of RSM to address the rapid transformation of landscapes. So there is a trend to represent the subgrid scale land surface processes recently, but it won't be accurate without a precise representation of exhibit landscapes. So could you kindly introduce the recent progress in representing the landscapes transformation with RSM?
Yeah, thank you. For this area, I would recommend you to read the papers by Rosie Fisher. If you see, let me share my screen again. So everyone sees this, right? I share screen. Shudong, can you see the?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So so in this page, you see Fisher and Colvin 2020 GEMS. Oh, sorry. So in that paper, they talk about ecological and biological representation of land surface, and I think that review article and the references cited in that article may help you get the answers to the questions you ask. And another review article is published this year by Stephenson's in BAMS. They also talk about the latest work by GFDL group. I think GFDL and the Nate Chaney, he used to be a postdoc at GFDL. Now he's a professor at Duke University. They have developed new ways to parameterize landscape transformations by accounting for like terrains, vegetation, soils, etc., and hill slope processes. So Nate Chaney and his collaborator in GFDL, they have also done work in this area.
Okay, can I add one question here? So what is the special, the depths of soil moisture and the groundwater depths considered in the model in NoIP?
Currently, the non-IP the version my group uses is a traditional, like a 2-meter soil column, and the unconfined aquifer is attached to the bottom of the soil column. Water table can depend on recharge and discharge, so therefore water table depth can enter within the soil column. But this framework is generic for everywhere. Apparently, this is a big simplification compared to reality. In reality, you have a very shallow soil layers, also you have very deep layers, such as in last plateau, like in the Yellow River Basin, and like Huangtou Gaoyuan, the soil can be really deep, like 20-30 meter deep. So therefore, I have not done that, but the next stage in non-IP would be to use a realistic soil data set globally and the bedrock position globally. So therefore, we have a more realistic representation of vidal zone hydrology and the groundwater vidal zone interaction. And so currently, it's a very simple idea, but hopefully next 5-10 years. I mean, in last week's workshop talked about what to be done in next 5-10 years. So many things to be done. Really talents and their dedication.
Yeah,
I would love to see someone who is motivated and to look at this realistic vidal zone in landscape models.
Yeah, I agree. So we have lots of work to do. So next work potential is from Chu Han. I wonder if there are future plans to improve representations of anthropogenic activities in the non-MP model, and what would be the focus?
Yeah, so my colleague David Neogi is expert in anthropogenic activities such as crops, urbanization. So we have together we have supervised several students who developed the new data sets to represent like building heights, global building heights for the global cities at very fine resolution. With this new building heights at very fine resolution, we are able to better represent urbanization and the impacts of urbanization on storms and flooding. And also we're interested in to improve agriculture in non-MP and for forestation and deforestation in non-MP. So those are some ideas. Other ideas include the fertilizer use and the impacts on water quality and the coastal ecosystem health, like eutrophication and hypoxia, also are high on my interest list. So again, maybe I will retire 5 years from now, but I do have lots of ideas. I hope we have lots of young talents here. I think many of those ideas could be pursued, and the excellent. The other, which one?
So next, I would like to ask if there is any audience want to speak to Dr. Yang.
Yeah, anyone wants to just two of us, we see each other. I like to see more people actually.
Yeah.
Fresh faces and fresh and raise your voice. I'd like to meet you virtually. David, I see you. Hi, David. Hi. Oh, you have to unmute you, David. I cannot hear you. David, oh, okay. Now you are unmute.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hi. Well, thank you so much for that wonderful summary, Liang. I really enjoyed listening to it.
I'm glad it's late. I know in Austin. I'm glad you you listen. Thank you. I really we need to hang out sometime. I haven't seen you for a long time, even though we are in Austin.
Yeah, that would be great.
No, we just meet after through this students this virtual meeting. David, let's have a meal. Let's have a lunch or dinner sometime.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. I heard from Xing, the pin to flood is adopted by the Texas the flood management.
Yes, I'm actually in Fort Worth, and we're having a launch of that application tomorrow at the Texas Emergency Management Conference.
Wow, that's really impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to catch up with you soon.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, David. Hope all is well.
Yes, it's great. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Okay, thank you. So maybe
Is the payroll here today? I think the payroll can say hi to David.
she was here, but maybe left for or she's busy for the classes.
I know now in China it's 11:25. I know it's Tuesday. It's still in the semester.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe we can finish a few small questions. One comment is Yang Chen, he or she suggests that you can also see path flow for I think it is groundwater. If you want to do it in the non-MP, you can think about use path flow because it has been used in WRF or RIS.
Yeah, indeed, inspired by Reid Maxwell. Reid Maxwell used path flow in common land model, and also he linked path flow and land surface model with WRF at very high resolution to study impacts on wind turbine and renewable energy. He used to be at Colorado School of Mines, Reid Maxwell. Now he's a professor in Princeton. But I think Guoye, I think a few years ago, he coupled non-MP with Cathy, which is equivalent to path flow. Path flow and other three-dimensional detailed subsurface hydrological models. Cathy is one of them. Reid Maxwell and Stefan Colland have organized a detailed, they call whole hydrology, a detailed subsurface hydrological process, river routing, and land surface model altogether. They have a small intercomparison project for comparing those models. I think that was published in WRR, the review article. So anyway, that itself is a very active area on its own. If you go to AGU or EGU, there are lots of sessions focusing on these topics.
Yeah. So one of the small question is, does non-MP support subgrid patches like multi-land use land cover types in one grid scale?
Conceivably, this is possible, but originally non-MP, since non-MP was developed for use in WRF or in the weather model typically running a higher resolution than climate model, so therefore the subgrid scale variability is less pressing compared to like CLM, because CLM is for use in GCMs. GCMs typically have a coarse resolution, so therefore you have to have subgrid scale variability. So since you are running the model already at a finer resolution, but but it's doable. Someone's doing that. Maybe Chen knows someone's already doing that. I think it's being talked about by Mac College in some other occasions.
We look forward to answers from Zong-Liang.
Yeah. you know, we pass the torch to Chen. So for any future non-IMP, ask Chen.
Okay, next question is, as we know that the ground plastic mortar cover, I don't know what is this, but has been extensively applied in the northwest of China. So I'm wondering what processes should we specifically pay attention to improve so that we can more accurately describe the mass and energy transfer processes in a plastic mortar covered cropland.
Yeah, I know Professor Professor Huang. You know, he's an academician from Lanzhou University. So Professor Huang has talked to me a long time ago to parameterize that into a landscape model. I think his group already made some progress already. Huang, you know, 院士黄院士，兰州大学。Yeah, and if you are interested in this, we can talk about offline. I know, I believe I saw a paper that already developed parameterization for Mach into a landscape model. That would change the soil properties, like soil hydraulic properties and infiltration, soil moisture transfer.
黄建平院士。
黄建平, yeah. I think Huang Jianping already talked to me about this importance of this, because that's very common in the farmland in near Lanzhou, in that region. Yeah, you have plastic. You know, they use plastic to cover the crops.
Okay.
Yeah. But when the plastic dissolve or break, you have lots of microplastics, small like pieces in soil. How to parameterize that? Yeah.
I think this is not only happening in northwest China, but in the East China, I also see such of.
Yeah, this is a very interesting, localized and specific problem.
Interesting. I think it's a typical or China typical way. I don't know if it is.
Yeah, I know someone applied their non-MP in Tibetan plateau by including gravel, you know, the rocks and stones. They are just unweathered rocks, not weathered. If they are fully weathered, we call soil. If not weathered, so it's a gravels. How to parameterize the gravels into the model? I think some researchers have done that already, applying non-MP in Tibetan plateau.
Yeah, I think non-MP will be more applied in different regions, focusing on different problems. So I hope to see in the next workshop. Did you mention the next workshops? Yeah. So Chen still here. I think at the workshop we talk about when will be the next workshop, where next workshop will be. So maybe in India, maybe in Austin. I would like it to be held in Austin, maybe sometime on April 8th, because one guy from NASA told me April 8th there will be a new astronomical phenomenon next year on April 8th. So when people come attending the NOAA MP workshop, also the Austin would be the best place to observe this unique, special astronomical phenomenon. I think Zong-Liang is not here, but we can. HydroNet can also like advertise
Yeah, well,
event.
I will maybe keep you updated, and then you can
Uh-huh.
pass on the message to Hydro 90.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I think the time is very limited, and as I already told Dr. Yang, we had a special question to you that for our younger generation, what is your specific suggestions for us to go in this like research way? Could you give us some like suggestions, tips?
That is a really big question. I always feel not qualified enough to answer this.
Yeah, just based on your own experience,
yeah.
it's fine.
So for me, I have been fortunate to work with the giants in our field, such as Bob Dickinson and Zong-Liang, David Maidment, Dennis Lettermeyer, Eric Wood, and Pierre Sellers and Henderson Sellers. Those were more senior than me. And I was fortunate to work with them in the past 30, I think more than 30 years. And also, I am a narrow-minded, so I just focus on one thing, focus on land safety processes. I have not changed my field for that often, so I think so that also would help. Again, may be helpful to others, may not be helpful to some. So therefore, it really depends. So I think the fortune to work with the peer, the pioneers, and to continue and to be dedicated to focus on one topic you are passionate about, and to continue. I think yeah, you just do things you really enjoy doing. I think now we have so many talents. Now we are, of course, you are facing a different world compared to the time when I grew up. Now we have AI, machine learning. We have so many other cool stuff. Maybe they are distractions, or maybe they are the tools you can take a fully advantage of. So I think different people have different way of doing things.
Yeah, I agree. Well, focusing on one specific field I think is very important, but it doesn't mean that you cannot include the newly developed technologies to solve the problems you focus.
Yeah.
And I think working with those great people, it was very difficult in the past because we have to meet face to face. But in this new world, we have like this video conference, the video meeting. I think it's getting easier to get more intelligent people. And for instance, our Dr. Yang. And I hope this is one of our like target of building HydroTalks. We are trying to connect people from different world, from different field in a different continents. So I hope we can continue to work on this small like world to contribute to our community. Okay, I think we should stop here, and thank you so much for Dr. Yang. It's very late, and thanks all for our listeners, and I hope you have also got some good like knowledge from this talk, and I hope you all will focus like how to say, support our activities. And we have the recording, but I will conduct you to confirm whether this can be published or not. Well.
Sure. Thank you again, Dr. Zhou, for organizing this. Thank you very much for the chairing today's session, and thank you everyone for listening and for the excellent questions. And let's keep in touch. Everything I share today is free for downloading or for your personal use. So no copyrights.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay.
all. And let's
Thank you all.
finish
Thank you, everyone.
here.
Yeah. If you have questions that are unanswered, please email me. You have my emails.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.